Hi and welcome to the table. My name's Steve Rain.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mark Wendell.
And recently we've just got back from the UK Games Expo 2018 and we played many a game there. We looked around, we had some we wanted to see before we went there and some that just surprised us on the day. So what we've done for you this video is we've made a list of 10 games that stood out for us. We had a quick chat earlier about which games uniquely stood out for each of us, and we've each kind of picked 3. But there was one that was, without a doubt, each of us our best game of the Expo. So that will be the one that comes right at the end here. So the first game we're going to talk about is, we quite like the Escape the Room games and the deductive and the puzzle sort of games. And there were quite a few out there this Expo. There was one called Detective, a modern crime drama.
A modern crime board game.
Modern crime board game, which was packed out. There was some demos that we never get a chance to play, so we didn't get to see that one. There was another one called The Escape Tales, which we got a really nice chance to demo that. The one that stood out for all of us was Chronicles of Crime.
Yeah.
How to explain? Chronicles of Crime most reminded me of, the Sherlock Holmes games or Mythos Tales, but expanded upon to use app support and stuff. Because if you think, the easiest way to think is obviously it's a detective game, so you're solving a murder or whatever. But if you're thinking something like Sherlock Holmes, you're limited to, it says go to this number at this address, and that's all you're ever going to get, whatever happens. Well, in this, because it uses QR codes on the character and the location stuff, so if I find out a character, I can now speak to another character about that character, and same again with location and stuff. So it just gives it that power to expand upon. You don't get that feeling where you sometimes, I want to ask the question because it's the obvious question, but the text won't let me do it. You really does work much better. Plus, there's a cool little bit with it has a VR support, but you have to use it, where you might be at a crime scene and you can use your phone to actually look around and try to spot for clues and stuff within it, items and things, because you'll have somebody at the table controlling item cards and stuff. So you go, oh look, there's some food. Is food one of the things? And we get the QR code for that if that's on there, or like a weapon, or lots of different things. It all ties in really well as a single thing.
Feels a lot like a sandbox, effectively. The more you find out about the game and all locations, you can do whatever you want. You can go wherever you want, and you can ask anyone about anything. You might be a bit off the mark, and they might just say, don't know. But as long as you're asking about the right things, you can, you've just got much more scope.
Yeah. The VR thing I thought was a lot of fun. You can do it with the whole glasses thing, or you can just kind of hold it and look around. But you're kind of looking around and the picture's changing. And the person that's looking is calling out to everyone else whatever they can see.
It's like a newspaper.
So there's a lampshade and there's a dead cat on the floor, and you're trying to find all the different things that might correspond to that, because the cards are the things you're scanning to then ask people about. So if there's no card for newspaper, you can't ask anyone about it. It means it's not relevant.
Yeah,
so it narrows it down, but
it's very good. It's done very well. And we only had a chance to play like a third of a mission. I don't know actually how long the mission was, but we went to about 4 different locations on the opening mission. But that is not out. None of these are out for retail at the moment, but we're looking forward to the point where they are.
Yeah.
Another game we were looking to play, in fact it was the first game we sat down and played, I believe, was Luxor. Now Luxor is nominated for Spiel this year. It's one of the 3 Spiels, and it was the last one we had a chance to play. And in Luxor is a very light family game with actually quite a few options where you're kind of winding in this labyrinth with your explorers, trying to pick up treasure along the way and do various things. And you've got 5 different explorers, so it's not a roll and move. But the interesting bit about it is you've got a hand of 5 cards, and then the cards are numbered 1 through 5. And generally, you can, if you pick the 5, you can move one of your explorers 5 spaces. So you've got some choice here because you've got lots of different explorers. But the cards you're picking, you can only pick your end cards. So if you've got a 3 here and a 5 here, but the 4's in the middle, and you want to move one of yours 4, well, you just can't. So you kind of you struggled a bit. You kept pulling them out in the middle. But it's just nice that you just, for what is a light game that kids can play, actually gave us as seasoned gamers quite a few options, and I quite liked it.
It's like a Euro version of the Adventurers, if you come across that. So it does give you that whole, you're running through the temple trying to grab as much treasure as you can sort of adventure feeling. But there's plenty of Euro mechanics there. As you say with the cards, I was forever like, oh crumbs, I really want to play this, but I can't. And the other thing I liked was the racing aspect. So because If you want to pick up a treasure, you need to have a certain number of people on that space. So it might be that you need 2 people. So you kind of move your first guy there, but then maybe Mark moves one of his guys into the same spot. It's like, oh, can I beat him? Can I get my second guy there before Mark gets it? Because whoever gets the guys there first takes the treasure and the other person's left with nothing. So that was really nice. You have to pay attention to what other people are doing.
These 2 fought over the treasures a bit, and I could race ahead and get them to myself. I sent 2 of mine ahead, but they were moving 3 of theirs on to get the bigger treasures, but they were fighting each other for it. So it's a really nice thing, and I imagine it will scale well with different numbers of players as well.
Yeah, it's a great pick for the Spiel.
Yeah, it's definitely pitched well at the family weight.
Yeah.
I did like the card mechanism does sound quite simple, but while obviously it does add randomness, it does give you a certain amount of preparation. Because sometimes you just know you're going to have to get rid of the particular. Maybe you've got a 1 in the middle that you really doesn't help you. So you better just cycling through it, getting it out sooner. So hopefully get different cards. Also, quite like the cards you could pick up if you're at particular spots.
Yeah.
They gave you different options.
They were powerful.
They were powerful. Definitely worth getting. And I think if I went back and played it again, I'd know to pick up more of those and try to use them more to my advantage.
Yeah. It offers a limited sort of deck building almost, except that after you've used the card, it's gone. And then it cycles back around for other people to use potentially. So
you don't know who's got it and when, there's surprises.
There's lots of interesting things about it. My first pick then is a game called Destination X, which is going to be a little bit polarizing. I think some people are going to really enjoy it, and some people are really not. Essentially, it's a geography trivia style quiz. So you have a bunch of cards laid out in the middle of the table which represent different countries, and one person secretly picks a country, and they have a book which is full of lots of information about that country. So maybe you pick Mongolia, and you turn to the Mongolia page in the book, and it tells you lots of facts about Mongolia. And then everyone else is a team, and they're trying to guess where you've secretly picked, effectively. And they are limited by the questions they can ask, though. So you draw out cards that represent questions. So it might be, how many land borders does it have? What's the size of the country? What kind of produce, like agriculture or something, does it produce?
Currency.
Yeah.
Ocean borders. Yeah, everything.
So there's lots of different kinds of cards, but you can only pick from one of 4 each time, and you kind of cycle through them. So you have to think, which is going to be the most helpful for narrowing down the country? And then they sort of ask a question, you look at the book and provide the answer, and then you have to eliminate one of the ones you think is wrong. That's what the team has to do. But if they eliminate the wrong one, if they eliminate the one I've actually picked, then they would lose. So you're kind of competing against each other, but I like the team aspect. It's one of those, if you have some knowledge of geography, it's really going to help. So that's either going to be a good thing or a bad thing. If you know nothing about geography, you're probably going to hate this game. But I know my family loves geography, and they love the whole geography quizzing thing, so they're really going to like this. I'm looking forward to playing it with them.
It's not for like people who want to game the game and hardcore gamers and people who like co-op games, but just as a nice trivia game, it does geography better than pretty much any game. Terra's probably the only other game that comes close to doing like geography facts in a good way.
It feels more cooperative though than anything else I've seen. Because you're all working together as a team. Apart from the one sort of code giver, as it were, the cooperative thing works really well.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd play this as a simpler, lighter sort of thing, and Terra's a bit harder. There's also more options in that, but they work. I think they don't necessarily share the same space. I think they're different enough that you can have them both in collection if you like a sort of quiz game, and they do work all right. My next one is Brass, or rather the new edition of Brass, the very beautiful Brass Lancashire.
Gorgeous.
And the new artwork. I have rechecked. I've played the original once, and there has actually been some minor changes to the rules. Checking back over it, here and there, they've streamlined, made a few modifications. I mean, you guys haven't played Brass before this, and Brass being an 1800s style evolution of coal, of like business, so from cotton to coal to steelworks, also covering the canals, moving on to trains. So I think the main thing you grasp from it is you're trying to create markets to make your money while also trying to fill other players' markets to create your money. So it's very interactive because you've got to be fully aware and on the ball what somebody's probably going to do, because if you can get in there early, you can make points out of it, but if you're too late, somebody's going to swipe it straight from you. It's way too complicated to probably go into the rules. But I think we all agreed it's held up well, considering it's an older game, and it's looking quite good.
I was pleasantly surprised. It feels a bit like a more interactive, because you are dealing with other people, version of Power Grid, where you're trying to manage your money and you're trying to put your supplies in the right way and connect things. And I quite liked it. I like Power Grid, and this it doesn't. I would happily play either or both.
It is a dry Euro. There is no getting around that. The theme does not grab me particularly, and yet, again, particularly considering its age, it was really engaging to play. You know, you're sitting there thinking, I could go here and I'm going to get access to this resource, but I really want to be connected to people. It's very important that you're connected because you can sort of run things via the networks that you create. So you're constantly thinking, oh, do I go here or do I go here? And the way you go places is by playing cards. And some of the cards can be used for different things. So it's like, should I use this card for this one? But then that means I can't do this thing. There's a lot of tension all the way through.
You have to use cards for every action you do, even if it doesn't match the card you want. You still have to throw a card away, and the cards time the game. So you can say, oh, I've not got many actions left here.
Yeah. Good. It was very well designed, I think.
And the artwork's great. I think we've got a brass Birmingham as well, which I assume is going to be same gameplay, different setting.
Yes, but I believe it's more open, less tight map. So if you like your really tight cutthroat, I think you'll prefer Lancashire. If you prefer that style of game, but maybe a little more open. Where I think the best example I've been told, or from looking around, is that people can be more self-supporting of themselves. They won't necessarily win, but well, you can't do that in Lancashire. It will not work.
Yeah.
It is feasible to a certain extent within Birmingham.
Okay.
I like bridge, and so trick-taking games appeal to me. And I often play trick-taking games at expos and places where I'm like, it just doesn't add anything to games I've already played before. But another game I like is Hanabi, and so the game that caught my attention was a trick-taking game called Percoco, where you can't see your own cards. So you've got it's a pheasant. You've got not pheasant, a peacock. You see the back of a peacock, and you see all these feathers. The back of the cards are like the peacock eyes of the peacock's feathers, and you put them in this little holder, and so everyone else can see your hand, but you can't see it. And it basically is a trick-taking game. You've got trumps, so it's like whist, and you're playing a card, and so on. But the two interesting things that make this stand out for me is that you are not playing your own cards. So you're not randomly guessing which one of yours to play. You're playing the cards of the person to your left. So I can see, for example, I can see Mark's hand. Mark can see Jonathan's hand, so can I. But I'll be playing Mark's cards, and Mark's playing Jonathan's cards, and Jonathan's playing my cards. So you've got quite a lot of information. In fact, you can see 2/3, if you're playing a 3-player game, you can see 2/3 of the cards in play. Whereas normally in whist, you can only see like 1/3 or 1/4 if you're playing with 4. But the other thing it does really well, in getting dealt a good hand in whist, you're going to do very well, is that you are not winning points based on the tricks you win, or the tricks whatever. You are getting points based on how accurately you can guess how many tricks each hand can win. So Mark's got a good hand. I think he's going to win 4 out of 9 tricks. Or Jonathan's got a rubbish hand. I think he's going to win 1 out of 9. And then when everyone's bet on everyone else, you can bet on yourself. Well, they both think I'm going to win 3 tricks. So maybe I will bet on myself to win 3, or maybe I'll bet on myself to win 2. But because you have a lot more say of the person to the left, you can have, so my bid on Mark's going to be the best bid I can make, because I actually can control what Mark can play. And so in a trick-taking game where being dealt a good hand isn't how well you do at the game, effectively, it's irrelevant how good a hand you particularly have. Yeah. It does that in a very good way.
Yeah. Although you'd think initially, is it like Hanabi because you can't see your own cards? I don't think it's really anything like Hanabi at all.
No.
It's far more like a standard trick-taking game in that sense. But with that twist of you're playing the cards of someone else and you can't see your cards. So yeah, you do see a lot of cards, but it's a strange one to play.
Yeah. That's what Hanabi is what brought me to the game, but it's nothing like Hanabi. It is a pure trick-taking game where you've got more information than normal in a trick-taking game, and you're bidding, and I like the bidding part of it.
Yeah, I think the bidding part is the strongest, especially because you can control. You have control of the player to your left. But when it's talking about playing as a 3, the player to my right knows to try and do in the player, and they're always kind of you're partially trying to do each other in because you can't control your own hand, and we can see what's going on other than their own cards. There's a lot more power to annoy other people than necessarily if only you can see your cards.
Because you could bid a low number on someone else's hand, knowing that you can just play their cards in a really bad way to help them lose as many tricks as possible.
And then there's also the other, like, I'm going to put a bet on that I think I'm going to get this player exactly right. So you're also then going, we can't give them another one, or if we give them another one, we have to get them over that so they get fewer points.
Yeah. It does it well. It does what potentially lets trick-taking games down. This sort of solves that problem, and I like it.
My next pick is a game called Santa Maria. We got a demo of it at the expo, and then a friend of ours, Dave, bought it, and we've been playing it at the cafe. And it's a medium-weight Euro, and it's a dice placement game, effectively. So you roll some dice at the start of the end, and you're picking different dice one at a time to place it on a grid. And the really nice mechanism in this is that you've got different tiles on your grid, and you can activate different spots. So some spots will give you some resources. Some spots will let you cash in those resources to sort of satisfy contracts, which get you points. But in terms of how you activate the spots, You take a dice, they're sort of numbered like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you had a 5, you'd start it from the left and it hops over all the spaces you've got on that row, activating every single one, and it stops on the last spot. So if you want to activate that row again, you maybe take another 5, it would activate all those spaces again, but this time it can't go on the last space because it's stopped, it'd have to stop on the previous one. So each time you activate a row, you're getting less stuff. Now you can also decide where to put the tiles on your board. There's one of the actions is to buy more tiles. So you're thinking, where do I want to best put the tiles so that when I activate the dice, I get the most actions, but you can't keep activating the same thing too many times or it just blocks it up and it fills it up.
So can you activate columns as well?
Yes, there's 2 colours of dice, blue and white. So one colour does rows and the other colour does columns.
So if you activate this and the dice stops here, it blocks the column going that way?
That's right.
Yeah.
So again, you've got to be careful of that. So if one comes along, the one coming from the top would hop over it and activate the ones underneath, but it's still stopping you getting that space.
Yeah.
And when this one comes down, it stops you getting that space the next time as well. So they start to block up. And at the end of a round, you wipe away all the dice, re-roll them, and you're going in the next round. There's a lot of interaction though, but it's the good kind of interaction that I like in terms of Euros, in that you're racing for different things. There's a number of different, some of the spots will advance you on various different kind of tracks that give you special abilities or end-game scoring. And it's like, oh, I can see he's going to go for this track. Oh, but this track's worth a lot of points. Maybe I should fight him for this track. So there's a lot of paying attention to what other people are doing so that they don't beat you to the appropriate spots. It's really well done, I thought.
Yeah, it intrigued me. We bought a few to sell in the cafe because we liked it that much. And it is one I'd like to play, but I haven't played it yet.
I've been cheeky on this one. I was in the Dice Dash show at the time, so I didn't get to see any of this.
But yeah, and it's not very long either. It's like an hour and a half maybe.
So when they gave us the demo at the expo, they were like, oh, it's a nice short one. But I think I played it with 3 other serious gamers, and it was like 2 hours or something. So it wasn't. It was a normal length, I think, for a decent Euro. But it didn't feel short.
They advertised it as quite short, didn't they?
It looks quite short from the outside.
There's only 3 rounds, isn't there?
Yes, there are. But there was an awful lot of interaction, and we were chaining actions quite well to get us other things. So we were really making the most of what we were doing, as well as blocking things. It's like, oh, we've got to rethink. So, but I loved it. I was immersed all the way through.
Okay. My last pick is, hopefully at the time this video is released, still on Kickstarter. It's Salomon Kane, which is based on the book property. I guess further than that, we've got a lovely interview if you want to go have a quick look at that. Essentially, if you normally think of these sort of things, maybe like the Conan board game where you're controlling one dude going around doing scenarios and stuff like that. This isn't that, which is one thing that drew me in. What in this you're playing essentially powers, like not gods, but sort of controlling
like
powers.
Good and evil, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're influencing Salomon Kane himself. So you're cooperatively working out, like giving bonuses, giving powers, and you're trying to chain them with each other to optimise, to fight the monsters, complete the scenarios. So it kind of turns the whole thing on its head. It's rather than like a normal one where everybody's controlling one guy and you're going around or whatever and fighting whatever, it's got more cooperative going off, but in a very different way. It sounds really, really cool.
It did look really unusual. I wasn't there when they recorded the video, so I've watched the video that they've recorded and I was like, oh wow, this looks great. So, in fact, I think it's going to be, in fact, when you watch this, it should be on Kickstarter now as we release this.
It's the 12th, isn't it, when they're saying?
Yes. So as we're recording this, it's starting tomorrow. And I can tell you now, I'm definitely backing it. I'm really interested in this one.
It's by the same people who did the Joan of Arc game,
yes,
and which was incredibly more than they thought. It was incredibly well backed.
They did really well on that one, yeah.
And so I interviewed the guy who did Joan of Arc. It was the same guy. But I haven't seen Salomon Kane. But what they do in their games, it looks like they do very well. So yeah,
they've given a lot of thought to what's the normal, the tropes that are done in this kind of game. Let's rethink that, turn it on its head, and it's come across really well, I think.
The thing that most impressed me in what he said during the interview was that the people who own the actual rights to it have taken a look at it and then gone, right, we like what you're doing, so we're going to let you take Salomon Kane to new places that aren't covered in any of the literature already. Yeah. So they've taken a look at it and gone, we like what you're doing, we trust what you're doing, we trust you to look after the property, so we're going to let you go further than we have. I mean, that just shows confidence, and that it really works for me.
Yeah.
So my last pick is, I'm a heavy Euro gamer and a party gamer, and so the last one is not necessarily a party game, but like a deduction game, and it's called Newspeak, and it's not out yet, so we only got a demo of what it can be done. But Newspeak is effectively set in like the 1984 kind of realm. You've got rebels and dissidents, I think they're called, and the establishment. And the dissidents are trying to you're kind of in some sort of virtual reality world, and the dissidents are trying to meet in one of the spots on the board to try and out the fact to the other people in it that it is actually virtual reality, and they want to show the true nature of it. And they've got to secretly pass codes to each other about which of the locations they're trying to get to. And the way they do it is a bit like Tragedy Luca. You are giving codes that match a certain grid, and depending which key you've got, these codes might mean different things. It's very hard to explain. If you watch the video that's going to come out in a bit, the guy explains it much better than I'm doing now. But you do that, and then secretly us as dissidents have a little wheel. We separately put where we're going to do, and we all put it down. And then the establishment, again, if there's more than one of them, they kind of work together to try and work out, well, maybe if it's this code, they might be meeting here, or unless it's this key, they might be meeting there. And they've got access to all the keys, but they don't know which one we're using. And they try and guess where we are. And if they catch any of us at the location they go to, they score a point. Otherwise, if we manage to get uncaught, we will flip over the place. We will reveal the true nature of where the rest of our non-believers, the regular people in the Matrix, and we would get a point. And you're trying to get first to 3 points. But if we're not clear on where we're going, we all go to different places, and they're more likely to catch us. But if we're too clear on where we're going, they work out, they must have this key. We'll catch them next time, and we can't really change our key very easily.
So you're trying to communicate with each other to say where to go.
Yeah, but one person is one person takes it in turns to be the leader, and they'll say sandcastle, pineapple, all the same sentences. He didn't actually give us an example of the demo play, but you're listing a few words up that are in this grid, and depending on where they go, and so sandpaper on this key might mean clothes. So it might be, it's a shopping mall. But they might think sandpaper might relate to a different word in a different key.
So if I've got the right key,
we all have access to the right key.
The random words you're saying should make sense.
We know what
to
they mean, but you don't want to keep using ones because they're going to appear on other lists.
If you use too few or too many, they narrow it down. Yeah. So it is. I don't know whether this will play as great as I think it might do. It could, it could be a bit like Spyfall, where you struggle to kind of get people to be as imaginative with the keys as much. It might be quite hard for someone to pass this information on without making it too easy. So I don't know how well it balances, but it's definitely my sort of thing, and it intrigues me.
Obviously, I didn't play it, but I'm certainly intrigued.
I was standing right, I could pick up, but it sounds interesting. It's unique, or at least different, and that tempts me.
Yeah. Okay. My final pick is a game that it has already been released. In fact, it came out last year, but it's sort of flown under my radar. I've not come across this before, and it's called Pixie Queen. And to a certain extent, it's a fairly standard worker placement game, but the theme is really unusual. So you are all sort of little pixies, and you place your workers you kind of steal apples and honey and things, various types of resources, and you're trying to use these resources to please the queen. You start on 0 victory points, and essentially each round you're losing victory points. She keeps coming down and whipping you, and she's really, really hard to please, this lady. And so you're trying to, you kind of cash in your resources for gold and silver, which you can use to make sort of nice trinkets to make her happy. And then it means each round you're not losing quite so many points as you were before. But to start with, you're just losing loads and loads of points. There's a massive kind of negative track that rolls all around the board.
But you're losing, if you do nothing the first round, you lose like 9 points around, plus extras. If you take certain actions that have been gone, I want to take this action, it's really good, but she's going to lash me if I do. That's another point.
The other nice thing is that you kind of try and advance your pixies up through the various levels to eventually become a loyal servant to the queen. And when you advance them to certain spots, it makes the worker placement action easier to do at that spot.
Cheaper, yeah,
but it does it for everybody. So it's like, if I advance my pixie to this spot, I'm getting closer to the queen, but then it's going to make this action cheap, and Mark really wants that action. Oh, maybe I'll be able to go to this other spot. So there's some nice interaction.
And if you don't move your pixies up, they stay in the mine.
Oh, yeah.
And so the more you have in the mine, the more gems and gold and stuff they can get. And so I'm like, well, do I move Mark? Didn't move him out of the mine. He just mined all these resources. But Jonathan and I were moving our pixies out, which meant we couldn't mine all the stuff. It was really well balanced.
But the more pixies you've got in the mine, the more points you lose.
Yes.
Because the queen comes down and whips them when they're in the mine. So it's like,
And as soon as you cross certain barriers, as you're losing these points, every time you cross a barrier, if you cross a certain barrier, you're like, oh, okay, another one of these pixies goes back in the mine, the queen's sent them back. So I've never seen a game like it in terms of losing points instead of gaining them, and you're trying to stop the rot. You finish negative.
Oh, yeah.
Mark and I finish on like +5 or +4 points, something, +5, and you feel like -20 points or something.
Yeah, you don't do well. I'll tell you why, it's because one of the rules I mentioned right at the start is, at the end of the game, any resources you've still got left count as negative points, because the Queen is very displeased that you didn't make an offering with those resources.
Well, yeah, you reveal behind your board, and she goes, why didn't you give me all that honey, and that bread, and those apples?
So I built up this great engine to the game, which allowed me to get more of these resources. And it got to like the penultimate round, I was like, oh crumbs, I'm going to get loads of minus points for this at the end of the game. And I didn't have time to get rid of all my resources, and I just did it really badly.
I liked how I was able to do something different. I think there are routes to different... Also, I think it plays up to 5 players, does it?
Yeah.
Which is, it'd be chaotically interesting. The race to the top between 5 players would be... quite turbo,
bit cutthroat, I think, because you can pay an apple.
Is.
You can pay an apple to when your pixie moves up to knock another pixie down.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but it's not too brutal. If you kind of knock someone, it doesn't hurt them too much. You just sort of swap places.
I think it will play best with 4, because I think with 3 there are 3 different things you can go for, and I kind of went for one. Mark went for one, and you didn't really get the other one. But I think with 3 you could probably all go for the same thing. I think with 4 you get a bit more fighting, and it feels like a game where doing each other in is an accepted part of the game.
Yes, that's right. Although you're bashing each other, you're all being bashed so much. It's like you're just trying to mitigate it, so you're getting bashed.
There's a dice with lashes on. And if I go to this spot and roll this dice, I distribute the lashes amongst the other players however I want. Yeah. Which is just, like, it doesn't actually benefit you at all. You're just like, yeah, I'll go there, Queen's going to lash you too.
It's very nicely done.
So anyway, there was, we were told, it was on my list of things to see, and I didn't really know much about it. It was a heavy Euro. And a friend of ours said, have you tried this game yet? It's effectively Tzolk'in 2.0. I'm like, so we went along to the stall and we said, can we please come and do a little video of this game on Sunday morning? We booked a spot. It was the only game we properly booked a spot for.
Yeah.
And before I go any further, I can't remember the name of the guy. The guy who demonstrated this to us did the best job all weekend of how to explain a game he was teaching. It was not only did he do well, it was the most complicated game we played all weekend, and he did it very well. But the name of the game was I'm going to say it wrong.
Go on.
Teotihuacan.
That's it.
And Teotihuacan is like Tolkien, a heavy Euro where there's loads of different brown stops and lots of different tracks. But it does, from a game called Versailles that I bought at the first expo I went to, you are moving your dice around clockwise, 1 to 3 spaces, a bit like Rondell, but you've got 3 dice, so you've got choices.
Yeah.
And the action you land on, you take the straight in action based on how many dice you've got there. So you can put a dice there, take an action, then next turn you can put a second dice to the same spot, take a better action. And also the dice themselves get more experience. So every time you take an action with your 1 worker, you can plus him to a 2. And then you can plus him to a 3 when he takes another action. So not only can you pile up your workers to get better actions, you can power up your workers to get better actions too.
Yeah.
You've got this 3x3 grid where the top action is 1 stone and the bottom action is 3 stone and 2 victory points, based on you've got 3 dice there with an action, your best workers. And effectively you're trying to build the pyramid of...
no idea what it's called.
I assume it's Teotihuacan.
Yeah, I think Teotihuacan is the name of the actual pyramid.
Ten of Chilton's another one. That's why I called the game initially.
Yeah.
I thought it was Ten of Chilton because it took us a long time to say this game. But I love it. And now I love this sort of bonus action, point salad-y heavy Euro game with loads of choices. But you two guys, I believe...
Agree entirely, yeah.
It was great.
The thing that worked for me is... Tzolk'in I enjoy, but Tzolk'in, the wheels and pre-planning, I just can't get my head around well enough to play it well. While this... I was actually recording Salomon Came at this point, so I sat down halfway through the rules explanation, got a very, very brief one from Jonathan, one turn round, yeah, I get this game straight away, all that symbology is spot on, I know that those bits give me resources, I know that's where I spend resources, I know that affects that affects that. Straight away, I was straight in there, really everything made perfect sense, it was so smooth, and I just got, it's as heavy as Tzolk'in in the way of options, in my opinion, or things you can do.
Yeah.
But because you haven't got the timing complexity of wheels, instead you've got the complexity of the dice and then increasing and timing that. But you feel you've got more control over it almost. It's easier. I need to try and get a dice at that number there about this time, so I'm going to move some round. And yeah, just loved it because it was so easy for me to pick up and play straight off.
For a game with so many options, the simplicity of what you're actually doing, the basic mechanics of the game, reading all the different bits what they do, but the basic mechanics of the game are so simple, and you can explain this is how you go about taking the actions, and all people need to know is what the symbols mean, what do the different actions do, because in terms of how you play the game, it was great. Mark did come halfway through and he picked up straight away. We played about a third of a game, and I'm definitely going to buy this when it comes out.
Yeah. When you go to a spot where there are other people's dice, you have to pay. The currency is like cocoa or something, isn't it? So it really makes you think, and again, pay attention to what other people are doing. Because like, I think he's going to go here, but that's the spot I want. So maybe I need to think and go somewhere else instead.
You can either go, and this is why it's less harsh than Salkin, because you can go there and pay Coco to do the action, or you take Coco and not do the action.
Yeah, that's right. Which is really nice, because if lots of people have gone where you want to go, it's like, I really want that spot, but if I go there now, because there's so many people, I'm going to get lots of Coco back. So you don't get the action, but that compensation mechanic works really well.
Or the other option is time it, move a dice a little less far, pick up some cocoa ready for that point. Because you're still going to need the cocoa at some point. I don't think you can get through that game unless you're Steve probably and not getting cocoa. So you get a bit of cocoa earlier and then getting your dice there. Doesn't necessarily, so you don't feel hard done by. You're not going, I've ruined everything. You can just go, I'll just do this. I'll save that for later.
And the final bit is when your dice ascend to a 6, effectively they're going around, and 5's the best dice you can have. As soon as you have a 5 dice that's done an action and you experience it, he turns into a 6. He ascends. You get a nice little bonus. The time of the game moves on, so you can not only even affect how the round ends effectively.
Yeah, how many turns are left.
And then you get a nice bonus, which could be an extra dice or this or that, or move up on these temple checks. Always good. And then the dice comes back to a 1, you start again.
But what you're saying about the timer, but it's not while Zolkin you can get caught out. This you still get another at least one round. So
you're doing Zolkin.
So you don't. But I don't. It still felt I had more actions after. Maybe I'm working out wrong.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I'd like to play the game. Maybe it turns out to be you're doing the same thing every time, but it's by far our favourite game of the Expo for all three of us.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually think the Expo itself was my favourite Expo in terms of, maybe not necessarily the games that came out, because I wasn't as impressed as last year, but in terms of it had the most people, but it felt the best run.
There was a lot more space this year, so it felt more relaxed. It was easier walking around the various stalls.
I wasn't worrying about the camera getting knocked over every second, which it was the previous year.
There were more spaces to demo as well. There were more demo tables. Even though there's more people, there's more time. But that's why, I mean, we'd not seen Pixie Queen was one of the games we hadn't seen, and we just said, walking past, it looks like a worker placement game. There's no one sat here. We sat down, we played it, we loved it. Yeah. And previous years, you haven't always been able to do that.
I mean, talk about the numbers. I haven't seen if they update the figures, but they said, 21,700
that's right.
individual 39 turnstiles, which does make it a chunk bigger than Origins, or at least last year. I mean, Origins is, at the time of running this, is actually happening or just finished, so interesting to compare the numbers, but that's a huge jump on the previous year. But even so, because of that extra space, it felt so much easier.
It didn't feel too big though. I mean, it is huge, but some of the way they designed it or something, I don't know, when you're in one particular section, it feels like a fairly busy, lots of things to look at. But it didn't feel cramped or like, I can't do anything. It was really nice.
Also didn't feel sparse. There were no sections where no one was at. It wasn't like there's a corner, no one goes over there. Everyone was everywhere, but not too full. Yeah, it was great. Anyway, if you haven't been to the Expo, I would suggest you go next year. If you're going to book a hotel, please book soon, because they do run out. We struggled. But they were our top 10 picks of the Expo 2018. Thanks for watching. I've been Steve.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Mark.
See you later. Bye.